Okay, in this week's spiritual journey, we have Susie Jones. Welcome, Susie.
Thank you. Hello, Lindsay.
Susie has been on her spiritual journey since she was born, and she was born with a purpose. So, what is your purpose, Susie?
My purpose is very multifaceted, but predominantly around helping people, healers, to heal.
Okay. And how did you find out that that was your purpose?
I think because it was already there, but I was too scared to actually use my gifts. And I also felt it sounded quite arrogant to say I'm here to heal the healers. And so my ego had loads of issues. In actual fact, I found a piece of paper when I was preparing for this. I wrote this in 2019 in October, and it said, "Are you hiding your light under a bushel?" Okay, when life, ego, fear keeps you under the radar, the limitation of opportunity is tangible. And so I have been sort of on a spiritual quest for so many years, but actually to fully know my purpose. I mean, I'm a teacher, I'm a healer, I do a whole range of things, but to actually know my job is to heal the healer. And that is because of the energy exchange that we have. And so many healers are still quite young souls, but have got this incredible gift that they're using. So they still need, because they're on their own journey to heal, as I require that too. And I have many people that influence my journey and help me heal and keep me on track as well. So,
yeah. So when you were growing up, were you born into a spiritual family? Were your parents very spiritual, or?
Yes, it was a Christian home. Okay. And my brother was severely disabled, and it was not an easy life. I mean, it was beautiful, so beautiful, but it didn't always feel that growing up. Reflection is an amazing thing, isn't it? Yeah. And also being a mum and growing through your own pains of being a mum and everything, you start to understand the power of your parents' work that they did. My mother, well, she was the first female church warden in the diocese. There's a room named after my mum in our church, just to give you an idea of the power of this incredible woman. My father was much more reticent about his faith. It was much more a personal experience. But the church that we belonged to, I don't want you to imagine stuffy, because there was nothing stuffy about it. It was a community church in so many ways. And the love that poured out of people meant that we as a family were in service to the community. And our home, although it was just a council house, we were not wealthy, our dinner table always had incredible guests around it. And I used to give up my beds in order that the missionaries and the bishops from Africa and all over the world used to sleep in my bed. You know, so it was sort of quite an exciting childhood. And from a spiritual perspective, I think that it was about the foundation stone of love and service. So it's sort of inevitable that I would go into a healing industry, really. I didn't really stand a chance of not doing that. But I think that what it did, it gave me quite a warped view as well, because I thought everybody lived like we did. And I had no idea. So when I entered into the world of mental health services, you know, and it was the old bins, the old institutions that I started my career in, you know, it was like shocking. And the people that I met that were in my new peer group, they knew nothing of God, they knew nothing of a spiritual life, and they seemingly knew very little of love. So for me, it was quite shocking. So when we give our children this spiritual life that we do, we have to bear in mind that we have to equip them for the world as well.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah. So when you sort of went into the mental health services, coming from the spiritual sort of background, like how did you feel then? Because like you said, you know, when you're doing light work or you're a healer, whatever, you know, you very much live in this sort of like bubble sometimes.
Yes.
And for some people, like you said, it can be difficult to then go into the 3D world and do work there as well. So how did you manage to combine your spirituality and the world of work at the time?
Okay, I'd need to do some time hopping to answer that.
Yeah.
Because I was 16, nearly 17 when I left home, and I couldn't find a spiritual tribe. So I followed the worldly path. And in the early 70s, if you know much about your history, you know, it was pretty wild.
I know that much.
So I just was a wild child like everybody else, slightly hippie, you know, and so really, in a sense, I put my spiritual life on hold, which I don't reflect as a bad thing, because I didn't feel equipped for the world because I'd lived in this wonderful bubble.
Yeah.
And so for me, I experienced real life. I made some shocking errors and some things that I wouldn't be repeating out loud. But anybody of my generation would know what I was talking about, really.
Yeah.
It was a very different world. So I actually sort of had a slight hiatus in my spiritual life. And I accidentally got pregnant, and it was an accident, seriously. I mean, yeah. And it was at that point that I was under a huge amount of pressure to abort this child, because it was not within, you know, professionally, it wasn't good for me as a, you know, professional person, and I was clearly going to blow my whole career and my whole future by having this baby. And of course, that was the generation, so no judgment, that's how it was. But I made a decision, and I'd always had that deep centre in me that that's not something I could ever choose. I make no judgments of others. I think it's such a personal choice. Yeah. And I ended up, and I said to God, and I only knew God in the way that the Christian church had taught me. So, you know, please know that this is anybody listening thinking, oh gosh, what's she going to talk about now? I said to God, as I understood God at the time, if I meant to have this child, then I will have this child. And if not, then I'm willing to go through a natural abortion, because, you know, many children and babies are lost. And my daughter was born, and my spiritual life returned, but this time it returned into a different church, not my familial church. And this was a charismatic, an amazing church, where we had the gifts of the Spirit, and I was given the gifts of the Spirit of what you call light language now. It was gift of tongues. We were healers, we were dancing in the Spirit, we were experiencing true faith in an incredible way. And so my whole spiritual journey really took off at that point. And I had an amazing time.
It sounds fabulous.
It was.
Just going back to the sort of, can you touch a little bit about the speaking in tongues and the light language? Just if anyone's watching this and they've heard of it or they're not sure what it is.
Okay. Do you know, I can't remember my Bible well enough to actually do some correcting. Okay, but I think there was a census, and all of the people came to a town, and they all brought with them their own dialects, their different languages. And it was St. Paul who talked about the fact that they had like candle flames above their head, and they were all speaking in tongues. Now, obviously, I don't know Aramaic, so I don't exactly know what that was saying. And much of the Bible, I mean, the one that I used was the New International Version. You know, I don't think it's fully accurate, but, you know, it's 2,000 years old. I mean, who knows, you know. But there's some incredible truth. So speaking in tongues in our church was where the English language becomes so limited that you want to speak from your heart and your soul. And many people sang in tongues. I sing like a bronchitic frog, so that wasn't me for sure. But you know, the most beautiful angelic sounds coming from human beings. And my gift was more about interpretation. And although I speak in tongues and what we call now light language, and have done for many years, mostly my gift in the church days was about interpretation. So those words would be coming that were unintelligible to an English or your own language. And then I would know either, excuse me, through either a visual image or words that came to me through my ears, if you like, or through my soul. And I would then be able to tell the church what it was I was seeing, how I understood it to be. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. So is it like, you know, like when you're working mediumistically and you're using your clairvoyance and your clairaudience and you can see and hear things?
Yes.
Were you working sort of a bit mediumistically then, sort of?
Without any doubt. Without any doubt, yeah. I mean, I've been a channeler since before all this happened, but I just didn't know what it was. And I think we're all stuck in language, and very much stuck in a linear world. And because it makes sense, and language makes sense. So when we just go into a deep sense of silence, and we just start, and you might start with Om or another Sanskrit word that doesn't actually mean anything in your language. It raises within you a new vibration. And for people that release themselves and free themselves from the boundary of being human, those words and noises come out. And it's almost like they rise from the belly. And when I'm praying, or if I'm working with somebody, I tell them I sometimes use strange noises. Would they be freaked out by it? And if they are, then I don't speak those out loud. They're just words that come into my soul and come through me. And then I hope that that gift of interpretation can then come out to that person that I'm working with. But it's not to be feared at all, light language. And very often, when you're locked in a light language, you end up using gestures. And it sort of sometimes feels like you're moving energy and creating a pathway to where you want to be. I've just actually, before this call, just been doing some work, some cleaning and cleansing work for somebody and releasing. And there's no English words that are going to do that.
Yeah.
So I just do my gibberish, my light language, my tongues, you know, and then the impact can be immediate, which is very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was booked to go on a course which was all to do with learning light language.
Really?
Yeah, but unfortunately, obviously, with quarantine, it got cancelled. But I was really interested in learning more about what this other language was and what it meant, etc. Because I've had a couple of experiences myself where I've spoken, but it's like my throat is spoken, but my mouth hasn't opened. But it's been in that sort of like, you know, just as you're drifting off to sleep and you're in between that state of awakeness. And so yeah, and when I've had the deep relaxation as well, I had an experience a couple of weeks ago where I was lying and I was so wiped out. I'd said to the children, I was like, right, you need to just go and spend time in your room whilst I lie down. So I lay down with a couple of my crystals and I just got into this really deep state because they played so nicely, you know, for about 20 minutes. And I just got into this really deep state. And again, from here, I just got, I am happy. But it was a male voice and it wasn't mine. And I was like, where did that come from?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think as well, like this, like you said, the fact that, I mean, the English language is limited. And by having a light language as well, opens up, doesn't it, so much more.
Absolutely.
And expands like your consciousness, does it?
It really does. And it was interesting because I'm a researcher. I love to find, I'm extremely curious about life and people. Not nosy, just curious. And it's a very different thing. And I was repeating a word that was imua. And I thought, that's very odd. So I looked at it phonetically and I did a search. Google, good old Google, you know.
Yeah.
I found Imua, which is absolutely, and it is IMUA.
Uh-huh.
It's Hawaiian, and it means moving forward in strength.
Oh, I love that.
And it was really weird because whenever I was using this word, and as I said, you sometimes gesticulate,
Yeah.
and I was actually doing this, Imua, Imua. And when I found out what it meant, I was like, wow, this is amazing, because it was exactly what my intention was.
Yeah.
Where am I meant to be today? Where do you want me to go? And because I've lived, if you like, under the guidance of spirit all my life, I've moved house a lot. I'm constantly on the move. And it was like, where are we now? Because we've actually settled, and I said we have to stay here. I can't move for another 4 years. I have to have a break from moving.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, you can tell spirit what you're willing and not willing to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And so a lot of empaths end up doing work, spiritual work, that absolutely drains them. And they end up having a spiritual crisis. And it's, you know, it can feel like the dark night of the soul when they lose their faith and they just think, I've gone mad, and all of those things. And I think it's absolutely imperative that we look after ourselves. And I think this is part of my gift, if you like, to support people to look after themselves.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got distracted, but
No,
that's...
No, I think you're right. Do you know what I mean? That some people do find themselves drained, and what I've found over the last couple of years working with spirit is it's setting boundaries as well, and treating them as if you would a physical being.
Yes.
So often for me, spirits come through when I'm in the shower or when I've got the kids, and I'm like, guys, it's not acceptable now. I can't do this work. You need to wait until I can sit, and then I can speak to you. And I might be conscious that they're still there, but I'm like, guys, you need to wait.
Many, many years ago, gosh, I can't even time it, to be honest. I used to go to bed and all these faces were here. And I would say they looked like old, wise men's faces. They weren't scary, but there was a crowd of these. And it was like I'd got all these people discarnate looking at me. And I used to look at them and I just said, please, you've got to go away. I need to sleep. And what they were doing was actually they were trying to wake an element of me up. And I can't even think when it was. I think it was a time, yes, I know what happened. I had a new job. I'd been living in Spain and I came back and got a new job. And I had this old lady in my bedroom, and her name was M. I don't know what it was, but it was M. And she wouldn't leave me alone. And I just said, who are you and what are you doing in my bedroom? And I think I'm trying to work out if those men came to wake that element of me up to say, you've got somebody trying to talk to you. Will you open up your ears again, please? Or not. Anyway, this lady said, I want you to give a message to my daughter. And so I said, okay, because look, you know, to be honest, I have a really busy life and I don't want this. You know, I'm busy. I don't want you to be in my room and interrupting me. Anyway, so I said, I'll get some paper and pen. And I wrote this message down. And it was for my boss, my brand new boss. Wow. Now, you know already that I'm sort of fairly reticent about opening up my weird side, my woo-woo, you know. It's, I'm a professional lady. We don't do things like that. Anyway, so when I was walking around Sainsbury's, M, in my ear, buy some honey. But the other side of my ear, and I don't know where that came from either, said, this lady doesn't like honey. And I thought, oh, this is just driving me nuts. So I bought some Manuka honey. This was, I think, at the weekend, put it in a pretty bag, wrote down what Emma told me to write, which to this day I have no idea. because it wasn't for me and it felt private. And when you channel, you can sometimes do that, can't you? Anyway, so I knocked on the door on the Monday morning of my brand new boss and said, could I see you? And she said, oh, I'll see you out. And it was sort of after work. And I was like, oh my, I was really nervous all day. Anyway, so at 5:30, I knocked on her door and we sat down and I said, do you know somebody called M? Her face just went white, ashen completely. And it was her mum, who died a little while before. It was really incredible. So I think those men, you know, and ever since then, because I learned my power through that, I don't allow spirit to really interrupt my life too much. Yeah.
What so because you've been on your spiritual journey for a while and you've got a lot of experience behind your knowledge, what sort of top tips would you share for someone who's just starting out maybe, or finding out what powers they have, or they're a healer? What sort of tips would you want to give them?
Okay, can I do a little thing? Have you got time? If I just go through, I thought it'd be really useful for me to go through the books that have influenced my life.
Yeah.
I've read hundreds and hundreds of books, so please don't think this is not good. But to be honest, if you came to my house, you'd probably walk out with one of my books, so I'm forever rebuying them. The Bible, 36 years, this was my companion. This actually is a book I bought my mum, my mother. I don't know where my Bible went because I rejected it, and I rejected all aspects of my Christian life. Can I say now that is not back on my shelf in the way that other books are, but it's still, now I understand it differently.
Yeah.
And it's a very powerful, there's some incredible, powerful messages in there. In 1999, I found this book called The Anatomy of Spirit by Caroline Myss. And this taught me about the connection of the physical body as a manifestation of the soul. And I've had several books quite similar to this that keep coming out with different authors. And one of them at the moment is The Emotion Code. And that's fascinating. And we need to know that our body, we must ground ourselves as spiritual workers.
Oh, definitely.
And when we've got malady, any form of malady, and I've had a really bad throat, if this has always been an issue for me. Okay, this is about my chakra, about my power of speaking, not always the truth. This helped hugely. Marvelous, marvelous book. So if you're just starting out, just spend time in silence. Just shut it all out and always walk into that with intention. Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. You know, we understand our physical experience, but we don't understand our spiritual experience because it's more nebulous. It's not linear. It's not up and down. And now is all there is. Getting your head around that is really hard because of all the chatter. You know?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, I have to say with that book, so I picked it up about 6 or 7 years ago, and I remember really struggling with the language because some of it is quite, you know, I only tend to use big words when I'm channeling. And like, so when I was starting to read it, I thought this is too complicated. But then I read A New Earth by him, sort of, I think it was like last year, and everything resonated and I understood it all. I was like, this makes sense. So it depends, doesn't it, on where people are at in their journey as well as to which book they're drawn to for when they need it.
Absolutely. And a friend might say, here's a book, read it, it's brilliant. And you look at it and you think, no, it's not. And I would say, and I've done this many times, is put that book aside. Because the energy of the book is going to change the vibration of your home, whether you open those covers or not. Okay, so keep this stuff here. It's heart-centered. Just keep it. Don't worry about the brain so much, you know, that needs some controls. Let your heart be the connection. A beautiful book called Anam Cara by John O'Donoghue. Can you read that? And this is an Irish wisdom, really, and it's called Soul Friend. And that is it's a beautiful book, really spiritual. It really helped me. These books are from 1999 to 2010. So, I mean, this is early 2000. And I think potentially this is my favourite book in many, many ways.
Oh, I've heard of this, but I haven't read it all, The Invitation.
By Araya Mountain Dreamer. And what I'd like to do, and I don't know whether there'll be time, but if you want me to come back and do this for you, I'm more than happy. The poem is beautiful, and you can pick that up on Google. So please look for The Invitation. It is the most staggering poem, and so beautiful for mums and dads. You know, and it starts, it doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for. You know, and if you take each sentence, what do I ache for? It's the most powerful, moving book. But there's a meditation in here called Meditation for Discernment. And this was where I met my higher self, my counsel, and my spirit guide, my animal guide.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so if ever you want me to come back and do this meditation with you and anybody else, then, you know, please ask, because I use this meditation at least once a month.
Okay.
When I want to meet with my counsel.
Yeah.
Okay, and we need the gift of discernment. For those of you who don't know what I mean, it really means a judgment. We're not here to judge others, but is this going to serve me?
Yeah.
Then, yes, will it serve others? Because we're here to give. I know we need.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I only came across that word probably 4 weeks ago when I had a Reiki healing session done by a really good friend of mine, and she could see a fox. And when we started, and it was literally the week before lockdown, and when we started talking, when I started looking up about what the fox meant, it meant discernment. And I was like, discernment, what does that word mean? So then I was having to look at what the word meant, and it was just like you described it, around judgment and does it serve me, and will it serve others as well? So yeah. Sorry.
And we can, especially in relationships, and spiritual people tend to really make bad choices in relationships. It doesn't make sense, does it? But I think that's around the fact we're quite young souls, a lot of us. And we're still learning. We are all learning, and none of us have arrived, in any way. So when you meet somebody and there's a fire, a connection, it might be that they're from your soul group, and therefore that connection's really strong. But you might have contracted for a period of time, or even a bad experience. Don't think your enemies weren't put there on purpose, because they were. Exactly. And I would say that the people that hurt you the most and the people who cause you the most grief are often your soul buddies that have contracted to come and show you and teach you. I'm just jumping some time to the Journey of Souls. Was that the one I was looking at? Yes, Journey of Souls. I must read this to you. Okay. Do you know the Journey of Souls?
No, I haven't seen that one either.
Okay, Michael Newton.
Oh, I've heard of that. I had another guest on, Stephen Towell, and right. he does
Life Between Lives.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just see if I can find this little bit, because it's really. One of my clients has not been able to conquer envy for 850 years.
Wow.
In numerous lives. Okay, so if you think, I don't want to be a baby soul, you might still be a baby soul at 850 years old.
Yeah.
So, okay, but she did not have too much trouble overcoming bigotry by the end of this same period. Another has spent 1700 years off and on seeking some sort of authoritative power over others. However, he's gained compassion.
Oh.
Okay, so really, you know, we might be young souls, and we might have had many incarnations, and that again might just be an absolute mind blow for some people listening. And of course, this is a viewpoint. None of us actually know.
No.
But they do have a look at my Knudsen on YouTube just to get the gist of it, see if it's worth you buying a book. I've given so many of these away. This is not a volume that I know very well. I keep giving them away and buying them, and I bought a second-hand one here. So, you know, we are in a state of growth and discernment. I don't know, you must know this.
Yes, the secret.
Okay, so this influenced me. I didn't like it.
I didn't like it. And I think it should, I keep wanting to write a blog post saying why the secret isn't a secret. And it annoyed me because I don't know if it was the same for you, but I thought there's all these celebrities in there and footballers and athletes and actors. If it worked for them, it's not going to work for me. Not knowing, because that was the first book I'd read about the law of attraction, not actually understanding it. But yeah, I still, it's a good book. Well, it's not a good book. I didn't like it.
It absolutely irritated me. And again, there's another lesson. If something irritates you, say thank you.
Yeah.
Because the biggest lesson is in it. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Why did you not like it out of interest?
Because I thought it was nonsense.
Yeah.
But it isn't. I mean, that was just my reaction. And because I think I just didn't like the way the video was presented, if I'm honest. The book, reading it is easier than the video. The people that, well, yeah, you know this, don't you? Okay, so these people were fairly much excluded from the secret.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, Esther and Jerry Hicks were a couple, Jerry no longer with us, and they channel the teachings of Abraham. Again, go to YouTube, have a look. Does it resonate? Does it align with you? Because if it doesn't, that's fine, it's just not the right time. But very influential.
That book is brilliant.
Yeah, and the vortex, you know, really understanding vibrational energy, and that influenced my journey, because I've been an energy worker all my life, but I'd never called myself that. It wasn't my language, but this taught me how, when we get into that absolute fire of being in love with yourself, you know, it's just an amazing book.
Did I tell you my, sorry to interrupt, but did I tell you my Abraham Hicks story, what happened?
No, please do.
So last May, when I'd been invited over to America for my book signing, basically I was just on Google and I was looking, I'd come across an Abraham Hicks video, and I'd listened to a few, but with this one in particular, it said Denver, Colorado, May 2018, right? And I thought, oh, that's funny, because I'm going to be in Denver, Colorado for May 2019. I wonder if she's going to be there this year. So I went on a Google, and she was going to be in Denver, Colorado at exactly the same time I was. So I bought a ticket straight away.
Fantastic.
And went to see her. And the energy in the room, there was probably 1,000 people there at least, but you could feel when everybody left that sense of possibility that the world, you know, is ours. We can do what we want. We can manifest what we like in it. It was just amazing lady.
Yeah, I would. Well, I'm jealous. Okay, bottom line. Because they were very influential in our lives and in our spiritual growth. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Another one that is really, the 4 agreements. And for those of you who don't know this, loads of it all over Pinterest, by the way. Okay, be impeccable with your word. What does that mean? It doesn't just mean being honest. It means really honing every word to make sure, because the moment a word comes out of your mouth, it's never going to disappear. It's there all the time. And, you know, and if you come out with stuff that isn't good for you, and it isn't good for the energy of your home and your relationships, then immediately say, I'm sorry. Put new words on top of it.
Yeah.
Don't take anything personally. Goodness me, the times I said it's not fair when I was a child and when I was an adult child. You know, don't take anything personally. And we jump into that. It's like that narcissism that we had as children is still with us. And we think everything's about us. It isn't. It's much more about that person that's irritated by you. It's much more about them. And when my husband and I first got together, you know, and mature people have got their own weird and wonderful ways, haven't they? And he introduced me to this book. This is actually my husband's book. And he did something that used to irritate me. And I said to him, in my mind, not out loud, because we were a new relationship, you know, keep doing that until I don't notice. Because it's not that he was doing it, it was that I was noticing it. It wasn't terrible or anything, it was just normal weird ways that we've all got. The other one is don't make assumptions. Oh, aren't we good at that? We assume we understand what you're talking about and make huge errors of judgment about that. And then the final one is always do your best. And, you know, nobody is perfect. And I think we seek perfection, but we aren't, you know, and we learn the most by our mistakes.
Definitely.
And I need to make more so I can learn more. So, I mean, my spiritual journey is influenced by those, but I would say that, you know, we talked about my patients, my mental health patients. They are the ones that taught me the most. You know, we teach each other by our flaws as much as our wisdom. And, you know, I have so many people that I wouldn't be who I am without them. And some of those were very painful experiences. But there you create that spiritual side, you grow it. And for me, I think silence is, breathing and silence are my mantras, really. and just being able to support myself on my own path and being willing to constantly check the way my mind is playing itself. Because I think of things and I think they're the truth, but they're not. They're stories that I've made up around a key event that was the truth. And things grow arms and legs, and then we get sidetracked. And this is why I keep coming back to that meditation about discernment. In order that I can stay not pure and whole, you know, I won't be that really till this body's done all it needs to do. And when it's done all it needs to do, it will leave. And there have been many opportunities. I can't remember his name, the chap that you interviewed. And he said that he wrote a book, lovely man, he was from America with...
Garnet Schulhauser.
Yes, a gorgeous man. Oh, I love that man. And he said there are so many opportunities for us to leave this planet.
Yeah, I love that concept.
And I mean, I actually afterwards, after I'd watched him, I thought, well, I had carbon monoxide poisoning. I took my car off the road. I've had the big C. You know, 3 things that I could have made a choice about. And, you know, if there are only 5 or 6, wow, you know, how exciting those other 3 will be. But yeah, you know, I think we're on this incredible journey, and we're growing every day. And don't compare yourself to anybody. You know, we are hugely, you know, it's my way is my way. your way is your way, Lindsay. I mean, we're very similar. We've got very similar paths in so many ways, but we're unique. And so people listening to us think, oh, I could never be. Of course you can. You'll be far better.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the younger people that are now waking up and really sort of saying, I want more, they are going to bring so much energy to the vibrational levels of this planet. And you know, as we move into, we're in 5, 6D now, you know, and yes, we still have people that came to Earth with no intention of waking up. It wasn't contracted for them to wake up. And you know, but if you're waking up, the people that are watching, you know, if you're waking up now, then just meet alongside people. You know, most of us will give our time just willingly for free, you know, and yes, we're earning, you know, if you want proper stuff, then you pay a bit of money, you know, but that's just natural exchange. But, you know, people, we're not here for everybody.
No. I think you've just shared some, like, I've just been listening to you so intently, Susie, because there are so many golden nuggets in like what you've spoken about through your journey. And I really thank you from my heart for just sharing like what your wisdom, basically. There's just, like I said, there's so much in there for people to be able to take away and hopefully help them on their journey, because that was part of the reason why I created this program, was for people to see that there's others who have been through it, who have made it to the other side and are still going. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. And you're never too old for this.
No.
You know, I mean, I was blessed to be raised with this. And for many, you know, you're never too old.
No.
And I mean, I've worked with the dying for many years, and I've done a lot of my spiritual work with people who are at the end of their life, and sometimes that's just about presence. And at the moment with the coronavirus, you know, there's an awful lot of people leaving this earth, and I know that's very sad. As we lose our family members, and I'm very familiar with death in my own family. I'm the oldest of my family. You know, I do have a couple of cousins slightly older than me, but not a lot. You know, death is very, very painful for people. But this is the time when if you're ever privileged to work with people who are dying, that you can just hold their energy, and there's such a wisdom in there. I think a lot of my wisdom has come from people that have served me as I've served them. And when we just hold each other's energy with love, without any judgment, and you just accept that life is as long as it's long. Yeah. And, you know, if it's my day today, it's my day today. No fear, because you're going home. Yeah. You know, many years ago, I used to go to a lot of funerals as well. I don't like funerals very much, but I used to go to an awful lot. And this lovely old vicar said, the tadpole wonders where the frog has gone. And it's true, you know. And when we leave this body, it's because it's done its job. Yeah. And you've made that choice. You have that ability to make that choice. And for a lot of people who are dying, they say, why can't I go? You know, why am I hanging on? And they do, a lot of people say that. And I say, because your purpose isn't over. Yeah. And it might be that one of these carers that, you know, you say something that changes their life. It might seem really insignificant, but, you know, that carer might need to hear what you're going to say, or might need to feel something of your energy. And then when you're done, you're done. And, you know, until that time, you live with joy, honour and purpose. And make the most of it, because it's exciting, and we shouldn't get so bogged down. We just
exactly. Not with too much seriousness. And
no, not at all.
The spiritual journey is definitely it's not a boring one, shall we say, is it?
It's very close to madness, and you know, I do have a certificate to say that I can say that. And you know, and what is normal?
Exactly.
You know?
People think that we're living in a crazy world anyway at the minute with everything that's coming out. So we might as well just join in the madness and the craziness.
Now, I wouldn't say that you start speaking in light language in the local co-op.
Yeah.
I think
If you did, I would be like, oh, what are they saying? I'd love it.
But do go around and hear. The reason Jesus was put on the cross is because this is your power center. This is where the healing energy is in every single person. These are magical.
Yeah.
Okay. This is magical. So when you're holding your children and you're kissing their knees better, or when you've got a pain, or when you want to connect to your heart, use the energy of your hands. Because you can feel it if you just silence your mind, and you can heal yourself. I know you can, because you are magical. Because if I got a knife and cut myself, and we just had a very fast moving video on it, you would see everything conspire to heal it. And whatever's ailing you, your body is desperately trying to heal it.
Yeah.
So
definitely. Well, thank you very, very much, Susie, for coming and joining me on the spiritual journey this week. I will pop your links underneath, so if anyone wants to come find you. Do you have a Facebook page as well?
I do, yeah, Susie Jones.
Okay, so
different hairstyle.
That's fine. I'll stick the links underneath, so if anyone wants to come and connect with you and find out more about what you do and the work that you do, then they can find you on there. Is that okay?
Okay, bless you. And yeah, and also just to say that on the website there's loads of free stuff, loads. But I don't talk much about my spiritual journey on there. Maybe I need to.
You do, especially now.
You put me under pressure. Thank you, Lindsay. I'm very honoured to be here. Namaste.
Thank you, darling.